The lights are off and away they go.
Extremely loose. He's managed to hold on. I think
He missed the complete that. He's crazy stuff.
Side Freitas is on the grass on the infield floor. He slides through. He tags Richard Eck.
It's natural to fear things that are big and dangerous. The survival instinct is there to protect us, but it can't always keep us safe from those times we throw ourselves into a bad situation. If it sounds like I'm setting up to describe the Nürburgring, think again. The Predator format presents the danger today as the series mercifully races on the Grand Prix course here at the legendary Eifel Mountains. That won't mean it'll be easy by any stretch of the imagination, though. You're watching round 3 of the Predator Challenge, and you'll see it all live here on the Global Sim Racing channel. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is Sean Ambrose. Behind the scenes is our director, the Dr. Amjad Yaman, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Sean, the Nordschleife stays quiet today, but talk to us about the GP course our drivers will tackle.
Yes, the Nürburgring's Grand Prix Strecke. Yes, sir. Originally a 12-turn, 4.5 kilometer, 2.8 mile circuit. The new track was revamped in 2002 with the replacement of the Castrol chicane by the hog hook right-hander and subsequent omega-shaped Mercedes arena turn, bringing the circuit to its current 16-turn, 5.15 kilometer configuration you're seeing here on screen, 3.2 miles. Along with the parabolic Dunlop turn, the track's signature section is the Michael Schumacher S, formed by turns 9 and 10. Now, while many traditionalists refuse to accept the new track, clinging to a nostalgic past not likely to return, let's draw your own conclusions as we take a lap around the modern Nürburgring's Grand Prix circuit.
Alright, we've got Amjad Yaman of the GSRC BMW, so let's do a lap around the Nürburgring. You'll see a lot of pass attempts into turn 1, but this corner is so sharp that it's easy to lose track of the line your opponent is taking. Take caution when you try to pull an over-under. From there, you head into the Mercedes arena, which is the most technical portion of the track. These next few corners are all going to be slow and come up without much break in between. Figuring out the correct line can be difficult, and the one positive to take out of this is that it'll allow you to catch the slower drivers who haven't sussed out its secrets. Be sure to use as much runoff as allowed, since much of the speed can come from there. After that, you head towards Valvoline, which is going to be a medium-speed downhill left-hander. For me, it always feels like I enter too slow, but don't be fooled as it can be easy to get over-ambitious. Try to hold left even on the exit because it'll give you a wider entry into Ford. The reason you want to sacrifice the first part for the second one is we're going to continue to plunge downhill and keep picking up speed. This leads us into the heavy braking of Dunlop, where anxious drivers might be looking for a pass. So obviously, the best way to defend will be to get a good run down here. The heavy banking can make outside passes possible, but it's still extremely difficult to pull off. Now we're on to the back half of the course, which starts with a quick left-right flick. Feather the throttle and try to straight line them as much as you can. Don't waste time in recovering and bring the car to the right for turn 11. This feeds you directly into 12, which is going to be critical to your lap time. Make it one smooth flowing motion and set yourself up for a good exit. You're going to be on the gas for a little while, and any hesitation could make you vulnerable to the car behind. Now, the Vidal chicane coming up is sharper in other layouts, but this one takes the quick version. That makes it a lot tougher to outbrake your opponent. Don't be surprised to see a too wide attempt at some point in the race, but I can't promise that it'll end well. After that, all that's left is the final hairpin, so late apex that sucker and launch it onto the pit straight. Though we're racing in the shadow of the Nords, this place certainly has its fair share of difficulty, so treat it with respect. And with that, we now finish our lap around the Nürburgring. That's a lap here around the Grand Prix Strecke in the Eifel Mountains of Germany. You can see we're waiting for the last 10 minutes of qualifying to finish up here, but as that's happening, let's take a look at the Points Championship and see where they stand. We've completed 2 rounds so far, and George Sandman currently up at the top, having taken the win last round at Mosport. Carter Kundinger keeping him very close to his chest, though. We do have a tie for 4th, you can see, between Fleischle and Pfeiffer. Not too far behind Josh Wolf sitting there in 3rd. They could potentially overtake him with a good race today if Josh Wolf falls afoul of some problems. Now, this track, you described it a little bit, Sean, and You talked about some of the new sections put in. What are we looking at in terms of good places to pass around here?
Joe, honestly, Hog Hook, maybe a good opportunity there. Turn 6. I like turn 6. You get out of that very tough complex there with 3, 4, and 5, and you got that little bit of straight to work with there. There's a good opportunity to get under somebody there as you set up for the forward curve. Dunlop, of course, anytime you get down into a hairpin, you've got a good opportunity to make a pass there. Turn 11, of course, there's another opportunity at that left-hander to get in, and then all the way back around, you get to the very, very back part, the last chicane, Vidal, turns 14 and 15. Definitely that straightaway, a good drafting opportunity to set someone slingshot around and get yourself into that chicane first, as long as you can find the right line through there.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting one on that section of that course that leading up to that chicane. Probably one of the longest straights other than the front straight that they'll be able to really stretch the legs out on these cars. Now, if you're new to the Predator format, let's quickly get you up to speed on what you're in store for here for roughly 90 minutes. Basically, the Predator format works in that it is multi-class, but all the cars are racing each other in the same class. Now, how does that work? Well, the faster classes start on a handicap. They're held in the pits and released at a predetermined time based on the data that's collected on the week prior during official practices for this series. Sometimes they get it right, sometimes it's a little off, but it always provides some exciting races because, Sean, this is just a little bit different than normal multi-class with the way the traffic works.
Yeah, definitely a little bit different. I mean, the difference, the speed difference between the classes is pretty close, as we're going to see here when we get to the end of these 46 laps. It always seems to work out in the end, Joe. As many of these as we've done, I know there have been maybe some small miscalculations, but it is funny that when we get to the end, every class always seems to be represented in the top 5.
Yes, it's at least that close most times. Mike Willett has a lot of experience doing this. He did this in a couple of years in the Pacific Majors, which this series was birthed from, before jumping over here and making a series solely for the Predator format. So this is not something that the organizers are new at trying to figure out before they jumped into this. Now, if you're curious what the handicaps are today, of course, our slowest class is the GT3s. They will be on the grid. They will take the green. And then the GTEs will be held for roughly 2.5 minutes. Now, or exactly 2.5 minutes, I should say, actually. GT1s are the next class that will be released at exactly 3 minutes. The prototypes, the Daytona prototypes, are out there as the fastest class. They will have to sit for 6 minutes and 10 seconds today before they get going. And they will have to try and chase these down. The real interesting thing for me, Sean, is the fact that because they're coming from behind, from laps down, the faster classes are not being given blue flags the slower classes are not being given the blue flags.
Right. Because this is not a traditional multi-class scored event. They don't. You'll only get that when you're actually slowing down someone who is at laps ahead of you in the same class. So you're right. It's open season, and you won't always see that, and that can present a problem. You're not always, sometimes there isn't time to focus on that relative that we should all be watching. Everybody says watch the relative. Well, you know what? Sometimes the track in front of you, the battle right next to you, is a little bit more important. You don't always see how quickly maybe one of those Corvettes is closing on you if you're riding down there, let's say, in a GT3.
Confused myself there a bit ago. Thanks to Sean for helping me out there. So it'll be, if you're new to the Predator series, we definitely encourage you to stick around and watch how this plays out. It is a fascinating style of racing, very unique here on the iRacing service. Just about 5 minutes left as we see Trevor Clement, fortunately, have a few problems there trying to put his qualifying laps in there in the GTE class. Found out that Trevor actually his real-world racing experience includes ATVs, racing off-road when he was younger.
Well, I'll tell you what, I'm looking forward to this race today. Got a good field here, a little bit better than maybe we anticipated, but you know what, Joe? I do like this circuit. I'm interested to see how it plays out over the 46 laps, but I still think maybe the DPs are going to have a little bit of an advantage here.
It'll be fascinating to see, coming from 6 minutes and 10 seconds back. There was, let's see, our director had given us some info on the average lap time faster that they'd need to run than the GT3s. I'm trying to pull that up here in a second. The GTEs are 3.3 seconds faster. GT1s are 3.9. And then the DPEs need to be an entire 8 seconds a lap faster on average to chase them down. So you think that they're going to be that much better on pace?
I think this circuit helps them, Joe. It's going to be close. I think they may have dialed this one in just right after doing some practicing and watching some of the competitors' times here from the week. I really think this one might be as close as we've seen yet. And I think it will be pace that wins this.
Hopefully a little bit easier to get around cars here than it was at Mostport. We've seen 3 distinct tracks here so far in the season. Well, we haven't seen the third one yet, but we'll see how it plays out. On paper, it's definitely different from both Daytona and Mostport. You couldn't be more polar opposites. One being a roval with lots of high banking and plenty of straights, the other being mostly curves, fast sweepers, very few long straights, and this, kind of a mix of the two. Few long straights, few technical sections. Certainly should provide a variety of challenges, being a modern Grand Prix course, the types that those tend to produce. About 2.5 minutes left on qualifying. You can see right now Gabriel Roos has the fastest qualifying time. We're on board with Josh Wolf, the Northwest driver. Comes off of a road race in the Pacific Majors Full Series last weekend.
Yeah, and Josh actually in practice was the quickest C7 out here, and he's putting down another lap here, Joe. I don't know. We'll see if he can nail this one, but expect Josh to be a contender here at the end. He's awful solid in that Corvette. I like his chances today. He messes it up just a little bit there. I
think he got a 1X there, unfortunately, so this lap probably not going to count. He should get one more bite of the apple. But, Josh loves this C7. In fact, it was kind of amusing. I mentioned that he raced on a road course in the Pacific Majors. That was their Watkins Glen race in the Gen 6 Cup car. Now, you would think that would be home territory for Josh, having made much of his name on iRacing here on the oval side. But boy, the Grizzly Motorsports team now just is in complete love with this C7. And after the race was over, we're saying how much they want to go back here to this prototype and race it instead of the Gen 6 Cup car.
Yeah, definitely. And you know what? The problem is, though, today is Josh doesn't have his teammates here with him. They weren't able to make this event, so no Travis Henderson or Trevor Vorovsky here today to fight with him. So Josh kind of on his own. Almost wonder if the guy's got anybody spotting for him today, because it certainly helps to have someone looking out for you. But Josh looks like he's going to have to get it done on his own day. But again, I loved his practice times and what he's doing. That whole team is really adapted to this C7 program, and they'll probably be in it for a while, Joe, as long as that car is an option.
We saw Jimbo Pfeiffer have a bit of a spin in the final corner. Hopefully his race goes a little bit better than that last lap of qualifying, because this will be his last for a while. Apparently, he works on Forza Motorsport 7. He's one of the test managers. He's going to be missing out for quite a few weeks as he has to travel to Germany, as well as France and London eventually, for some press work on the new game. So congrats to Jimbo on that great bit of work. I'm sure all the sim racing fans here are looking forward to seeing how that plays out. Now, with qualifying over, let's go through our grid. On the pole, even though we won't take the start of the race, Gabriel Roos has the fastest time. Josh Wolf will be starting in second with Scott Corbin behind him in the pits and Claude Belval, in fourth. Mark Torres will be starting in fifth, followed by Jimbo Pfeiffer in sixth. Wade Hayes is in seventh, a bit of a new name here in this series. We'll see how he fares, running in what I believe is the GT1 machinery. Lionel Kalisto will start eighth, followed by Trevor Clement in ninth, and Brandon Limecooler starting 10th.
All right, Joe, we'll go to 11th. I'm sorry, row 6. Dwayne Carruthers and Lionel Duprat, 12th. Mark Herzog, 13th. Joshua Gardner, they're in 14th. Brandon Guaracia, and John King complete row 8. Row 9, Johnny Slaviak and Sheldon Rosenbaum will start 18th. 19th, going to go to Brian Bennett, and Ernie Ludwig will start 20th.
Rounding out the field, we've got Wayne Hutchison, 21st, Scott Kukas, 22nd, and Carter Kundinger in 23rd. Now, the driver that will start on the pole that takes the green is Brandon Guaracia. You can see a bit of a gap there up to the roof pace car. They'll close that down as soon as he takes off on the half a pace lap that they're going to get here. And they will go racing for a full 46 laps here around the Nürburgring's GP course for round 3 of the Predator Challenge. Thank you for joining us here on the Global Sim Racing channel. Got about just 15 more seconds before that pace car will take off.
Now, what's important is these guys stick together here, Joe. Get off to a great jump with this start and really just go all out as hard as they can here in this opening segment. The key is to put as much distance between you and the next group getting ready to come out.
And there goes the pace car, so they are going to follow suit. Everybody else, again, Predator format, will be waiting in the pits patiently. GTEs will be the first to watch out for after 2.5 minutes of racing. And around this track and these GT3s, that's barely going to be a lap and a half before they are out on course. Hopefully, they won't come out too closely behind the GT3s so that they can each get a little bit of clear track before holding one another up. Through the Vidal chicane. And then the pace car is going to peel off into the pit lane. Very tricky pit lane entry. Have to practice that one to get the most out of it. You're basically coming around a hairpin. So, as Brandon comes around himself, waits for the green flag. And he accelerates away, gets a decent jump over John King. Everybody already slotting in line, doing as you said, Sean. Very much working together in this first part, not fighting too much. Sheldon Rosenbaum closing up, though. Not sure if that was really as much of an attack as trying to keep from getting into one another, as once again, they go single file as they come into the Mercedes arena.
Yeah, you've got 5 cars. Go line astern, work together, and just, like I said, put as much distance between you and those other guys as you can. Your positions will work out. Plenty of race here to go. So far, so good. Heading down to the Ford curve.
You're watching and thinking, well, there's not a whole lot going on here at the start. Well, it's a bit of a reverse of most races, wherein it starts a lot quieter and then it builds into a cacophony here as more and more cars get released and more action starts to take place out on track, and they eventually slowly come together. So for right now, we can expect this little bit of a parade between our GT3 cars, 5 of them out there racing for this first lap as we wait for those 2.5 minutes to tick down. Rosenbaum with a bit of a run on John King. Wonder if he got a cut course. He's slowing and lets him through. And he's still slowing with this being the first lap. This is hurting him quite a bit. Brian Bennett is going to stream on by. How much more is he going to have to give back? Here comes Wayne Hutchison. And all the way to the back of the pack goes John King from second place. Or is he? He's now able to get up to speed. He's going to have the inside into the Vidal chicane. and manages to sneak back up to 4th before any more damage is done. So 1 lap completed now. When are our GTEs going to be released? We just heard a little bit of a heads up from Mike Willett coming over the race control. Should be out any moment now.
John King. I'm sorry, go ahead. I was just going to say, you know, John King, one of the Blackadder team managers, been racing for quite a while on iRacing, I think for a little over 4 years now.
John certainly loves this series, loves his racing, and there we can see the GTE cars are now coming out. Looks like they've got about a quarter of a lap of a gap up to these guys before they have to start lapping them. Mark Torres leading the way of that group as they work their way through the hairpin. Everybody through there nice and cleanly. And now they've already released the GT1s, only 30 seconds between them. Up at the front of them, Mark Herzog. In fact, is Mark Herzog the only one out there?
Yeah, Mark Herzog, the only one that made it out so far.
Where is Carter Kundinger? I also see Ernie Ludwig a ways back in the GT3s. He must have come out from the pits on that start. So apologies to Ernie for us missing him coming out.
That is odd. Carter still not on the course. So Herzog goes out, the only GT1 on track in his Aston Martin.
Well, that'll be an interesting one to see where he fares. Meanwhile, it is still Brandon Gracia after 2 laps leading the way. About 1.5 seconds over Rosenbaum. This is a familiar position for Sheldon. Held 2nd place for much of the race at Mosport, but an accident into the penultimate corner for John King put him out and promoted Sheldon to the top of the GT3s. Tried to valiantly hold on to that position as long as he could, but eventually he was overtaken by multiple other classes. So maybe Dinger is sleeping a little bit, or maybe he got called out for something in the real world.
Well, how many times have we seen that happen? I mean, you know, life does happen, and sometimes things don't always go as you'd hope they would. So hopefully everything okay there for Carter.
A whole lot of battles happening right now. Everybody's starting to get roughly a second between one another.
Well, I was going to say these three Mercedes up front are just trying to boogie down as quick as they can, man. Gracia, Rosenbaum, and Bennett, good pace here to start things off, but they are chasing. They're chasing, they're chasing time right now, Joe.
Speaking of time, we just heard the 1-minute warning for the DPs, and our GT3 leader is coming up to the front stretch. Are they going to be released right in the thick of this pack, or will they be able to squeak out first? This is going to get fascinating in a moment. Coming around the final corner comes Brandon. 30-second mark. They are definitely not going to make it out in time. Brandon is going to go by. We are going to have a pack of furious DPs on cold tires, mind you, coming out in the thick of all the traffic, all the rest of the traffic.
Boy, well, I don't think we really talked about the cold tires on... Yep. Oh. A lot of DePratt with a spin.
Looks like that was in the Bilstein corner. We'll get back to that in a moment because we've now got a release for our DPs. Gabriel Roos looks like he's got a little bit of clear track in front of him. It's a ways up to Wayne Hutchison, and they are going to make it out just in front of Mark Torres. So a bit of a blessing for the Daytona prototypes on their release, giving them some clear track, but not for long.
Yeah, well, you just said it, not for long, buddy. It won't take them long to catch that traffic right in front of them. Will on this first lap, though, because that's what I was going to talk about a moment ago, was the cold tires. Very extreme on the Daytona prototype. And you've got to tiptoe around here on that first lap. Really build up some heat in them.
Let's go check out that replay on Duprat. Looks like into the Bilstein curve as we pull it up. Just lost the rear end. Thankfully, was missed by Josh Gardner, who streamed on by. That Ferrari doesn't hit anything and manages to continue without too much more drama. As we come back live now. Watch Duprat 13th overall running the GTE cars today. And they are, because it's basically scored as any class can win, they are allowed to switch from class to class on each round. There's no penalty for that. Josh Wolf holding down that second position. Oh, and why is Wolf pitting? Is this potentially the wrong setup in the car? Not enough fuel?
Wow. Well, I wish there was some way we could actually find out. That is concerning, though, for Wolf, that he's coming in already. I certainly don't see any damage on the car. We didn't miss anything there. I'll check his time in the box. That'll be the telltale sign.
Double checking to make sure he wasn't penalized maybe for anything in the previous round and could potentially be a cause for him coming in on this first lap. We'll get information from the stewards on that shortly. In the meantime, that gives a little bit of relief to Gabriel Roos, which he's going to want right now because he's already coming up to our GT3 traffic. Wayne Hutchison being the first one up, catches him at just the right spot before they come down to the Dunlop hairpin. Has to send it in deep on the brakes, though. Whoa, way off the apex. Gabriel brings it back together, but certainly not the ideal line.
Yeah, he was able to reel it back in there. It was close.
Meanwhile, we've got a battle in the DPs between Lime Cooler and Crowder. This is for 19th and 20th overall. That's Lime Cooler in Crowder in the green machine behind, Lime Cooler in the red and white DP in front, trying to fend him off as they come through the Bilstein curve.
Okay, can I ask a question?
Okay.
Why is Dwayne Crowder in the Bud Light Lime car and Brandon Lime Cooler in the red and white car?
You'll have to ask them after the race. As Crowder sticks his nose in, and that almost looked like it was handed to him.
Yeah, I don't think Brandon. I think Brandon missed his braking zone there, and then just let him have it rather than wreck the car or get into an incident.
Certainly looked a little bit easier on Crowder's part. Up at the front, it stayed relatively tight between Brandon and Sheldon. Our overall leaders, less than a second between them. Those of you who watch a lot of the Global Sim Racing channel know Sheldon Rosenbaum from the Autobahn Motorcar Group Sports Car Challenge. Texas driver here running over in one of the Pack Major Series. Go ahead.
Joe, Lime Cooler does seem to be struggling a little bit because he just had Mark Torres and Jimbo Pfeiffer get by him. He was kind of almost there, kind of in the way for just a moment, but they were finally able to clear him. But that Corvette should be faster at this point.
I'm going back to see what happened here, as it looks like just the car behind Mark Torres got a run on him, and then he decided to let up and let them through. Really unusual behavior from him. Meanwhile, Josh Gardner having some problems.
Yeah, and trouble, look, was that turn...
turn 6, I believe.
Turn 6, yes, I'm sorry, turn 6. Lost myself on the track there.
You can see he touches the dirt on the outside on entry, and the Ferrari, unfortunately, not an off-tracker. So the rear comes around, he returns without incident, no contact with Anyone else or anything?
Well, the Rainier Racing machine back on track. Finds himself, though, at the back of his class right now.
Boy, top of the GTEs are staying very tight. And actually, it's even tighter up in the overall lead as that's really come together. I'm assuming this is traffic coming into play because right now they've got Gabriel Roos trying to sneak through. He's going to get one of them down into turn 6. That'll split Rosenbaum and Gracia.
Roos able to clear him.
Shortly behind them is Brian Bennett. So top 3 cars overall, all within about roughly a second and a half. Oh, and Bennett gets chopped off coming through the Dunlop curve. That was Scott Corbin in the DPs trying to make his way through. Already wreaking a little bit of havoc. Now, if you're wondering what prevents the slower classes from blocking the faster classes, they do have rules enforcing that you cannot take an unusual line to try and cut off the momentum of the car behind. Now, you can take a defensive line if you want it. It's sort of the IndyCar rule, Sean, of active, not reactive.
Yeah, definitely. IndyCar. Oh, there we go. Another
Scott
pit.
Corbin
Scott
coming
Corbin
in.
coming in.
That's 2 cars in quick succession who have an unscheduled stop.
I'm starting to wonder if we've got some kind of strange fuel strategy going on, Joe. That stop for Wolf, it was only 18.1 seconds in the box.
Interesting. Well, I saw a tiny bit of damage on the front of Corbin. There we see Josh Wolf, who has slotted back out into 21st overall. We have 2 cars not out on track, Scott Kukas and Kundinger. We know Kundinger was a DNS. I believe, is Kukas also? Yes, it looks like Scott Kukas did not take the start from what I'm seeing. So our 23 car field has been whittled down to 21. Corbin's still stationary. Now he's getting out of the pits.
Yeah, that was a longer stop for Corbin. 27.2 seconds in the box there for him.
Seems much more like a normal stop. Meanwhile, up at the overall lead, Gracia now has a train of cars behind him.
He does. Brian Bennett's had some good laps here. Been able to make up some times. Got himself there in 3rd, but watch out.
That's Claude Belval and the DP who's trying to get through. He's having to wait very patiently. Squares off the exit of the Bilstein curve. Up through the kink, he's going to get a clear run. He's got 1. I'm not sure if he's going to be able to get 2 before they get to Vidal. He's going to have to wait once more. Rosenbaum, despite being very close, doesn't seem interested in trying to fight currently. Wants to get the most out of their pace early in these stages. Ooh, bit of a lockup going wide. This could affect our leader. Belval struggling to get by the top of the GT3s, but he manages to finally get through. Just look at how close these 3 are. All just waiting for the car in front to make a mistake and not have to force the issue to make the most out of their lap times.
Yep, but the strategy is good. These 3 are working together, Joe. Yeah, they're racing. Maybe want that position in front of them. They've done just enough to behave. Keep themselves line astern here. Try and keep making time here on this field. It is really, really spread out behind them.
Bennett, who holds down that final podium position for now, actually raced motorcycles for 35 years. A lot of experience under that helmet. only on lap 9. We also got some information about Scott Kukas's did not start situation. Didn't feel comfortable in the car. Didn't really want to threaten anybody else's race by making a silly mistake, so he elected to bow out today. It's a very sportsmanlike decision from Scott.
Oh, absolutely. That is a big move there.
We see Pfeiffer and Hayes. Or excuse me, that's Pfeiffer and Torres. And already starting to catch the tail end of our GT3s. Now this is just getting their lap back. This is not for position. And we had a problem up at the front of our GT3s, actually. Cars came together. It was Rosenbaum and Bennett. Rosenbaum missed his turn-in on the hairpin. We might want to get a replay of this if we can pull it up. And Bennett, thinking that maybe he had the inside, stuck his nose in, and the two came together.
Oh, here it is on the replay.
Yeah, there you see him just missing his brake marker, and when he turns in, doesn't realize that the 71 of Bennett was going to be there. Now, eventually, Bennett did get the position, and we understand that maybe from the radio chatter, Rosenbaum might have a bit of wheel damage.
Well, he's definitely got some damage on the car. It's visible. You can see it there on the right side of his Mercedes.
Just behind them, Mark Torres is being caught, or excuse me, John King is being caught by Mark Torres as they come through the Schumacher S. Now coming up to 11.
Torres still leading that GTE field. Trying to get around John King here.
It'll be interesting how these classes play with one another. GTE's not too much faster than the GT3s. You can see a lot of it is not in top end, it's through the corners. So it's going to be a bit of a frustrating day, and there goes Rosenbaum into the pits. There is no fast repair on these cars. He's going to have to sit and patiently wait.
Boy, and Joshua Gardner leaving this race also. Joe, just seeing that there.
For similar reasons we're seeing, he's saying, it sounds like he's not entirely comfortable in the car. He's afraid of ruining anybody's race, according to the chat. He had a bit of a spin coming into turn 6 about a lap and a half ago. Not really worth going to see. He was all by himself and lost it. Oh, and we're hearing that Sheldon is out of the race. Oh, disappointment for our top GT3 finisher. Last round at Mosport looked like he could get another good finish here today. Too much damage to repair. The Texas driver is done.
That's a crushing blow. It really is. Everybody's still very civil about it, though. Apologies shared and accepted, so that's good news.
Yeah, it seemed like a racing deal to me. Meanwhile, Brian Bennett, who inherits that second place, is being hounded by Torres and Pfeiffer. In fact, this is a battle for position for the top of the GTEs. Pfeiffer's going to have the inside into the Bilstein curve, but he backs out of it. He's given room at the inside by Mark Torres. And he's going to be clear for now, getting past our second place GT3 car. Meanwhile, let's give a little bit of a look, some love to Mark Herzog, sitting 13th overall. We think we might have a replay on a spin that he had. Well, it looks like we don't have the replay pulled up, but we believe there has been one. Oh, and Jimbo Pfeiffer, something happened to him. This is the final corner. Trying to make a move on Bennett as we see him try to return to track. It's not been Bennett's day.
No, it hasn't. Jimbo just gets in hot there. Just pushed it too far, and he smart to stay stopped right there in the middle of the track, man. There were an awful lot of cars coming through. Look at this here, though. You'll see him get through the chicane okay.
We're on board Jimbo Pfeiffer. After this, I want to see the onboard from Wade Hayes. You talk about thread the needle. There you can see that GT3 car, Bennett, was the one he turned. Now watch Wade Hayes. Woohoo! Just enough space to squeeze between the Armco and that spun Ferrari. Great heads up there from the Ferrari driver of Wade Hayes, which is actually going to put him into second of the GTEs. Now, the one driver that's happy to see all these problems for Brian Bennett is Brandon Gracia, who is already up to 10.5 seconds over. So he doesn't have to worry about any fight from behind in the same class.
Nope, not right now. All he's got to do is just drive. Just keep driving, keep digging. Bennett, though, has got to watch out for John King here. John dealing with the traffic right now. But he'll be back, and King gets tipped. Oh, no. Oh, no, I shouldn't have done that.
Commentators curse, and the car almost getting into him. Who was that? That was Brandon Limecooler.
Who's had his share of trouble. Limecooler does not get into him. He slides off. That was awful, awful close.
You know, I was watching that happen as you were talking about that. I thought, oh, he's squeezing him awful hard. Wonder if he knows he's coming in there. And sure enough, you can see he gets tipped around. And then poor Limecooler, who was taking a wide line, spotted that Mercedes right where he wanted to be and thankfully locked him up and kept him from making contact. But both cars set back with more time lost. And we've seen, Sean, all the little bits of time lost count for so much in these Predator races.
Yeah, especially when the guys that are chasing you aren't having any trouble or are having a nice clean run. Every 10th, every 100th, every 1000th of a second count.
Well, that leaves us with, I believe, only 5 of our GT3s. Of course, there's the one GT1 that started. Oh, and what's it? Mark Torres passing our GT3 leader.
Yeah,
getting
Torres,
his lap back.
So, he is now on that lap, getting by Gracia. We're going to have to come all the way around, do it again.
Now remember, when they came out, they weren't terribly far behind these GT3s. And remember, with 34 laps to try and make up one entire lap, you've now got a better sense of how far behind these cars are.
The DPs are still 2 laps back. They still have a lot of work to do, Joe.
If you're just joining us, this is again round 3 of the Predator Challenge, an offshoot of the Pacific Majors. It's been an interesting series so far. Even with relatively small fields compared to what we've seen in the Predator races in the Pacific Majors, they've been putting on good action. Today is certainly an intriguing one.
It's been a little strange. Go ahead, Joe. Say it.
Yeah, some unusual circumstances. Definitely a few miscommunications. Very sad to see Rosenbaum, who's been performing so well in pretty much all the series we've been watching him racing in, see him have a bad day. But that's the way racing goes. Sometimes the racing gods smile on you, Sean, and then sometimes they deal you a blow.
Yeah, inevitably they do. It happens to everybody. He'll be back. I'm not worried about that.
That's true.
I'm watching John King back here trying to hang on after, needing to recover there. Lionel Callisto gets around him. Callisto, now, we missed it early, but I think on like lap 2 or 3, Callisto went for a bit of a spin, so he's still trying to recover from that early mishap. He finds himself almost 25 seconds back from Mark Torres, the leader in his GT class.
Unusual for the number 2, typically a very smooth driver. Don't see a lot of mistakes. Speaking of mistakes ahead of him, Brandon Limecooler goes way off, somehow brings it back on in the Dunlop curve.
Tell you what, seen Limecooler quite a bit today, and unfortunately not much of it's been good. He's just had really horrible luck. Seems to be in the middle of everything.
No!
And I'm just going to shut up now, Joe.
Yeah, I think Brandon Limecooler might want to chat with you after the race as Lionel Calisto finds more bad luck T-boning Limecooler's DP.
Have you got this the rest of the way? Am I good?
I'm afraid I can't hold it down for another hour.
Oh, no. I feel horrible about that.
Commentator's curse once again. And I was just about to say before that incident happened, to bear what you were saying, Limecooler is the last car running on track right now. 19th out of the 23 that signed into the session. So we got some info according to the pace that we've seen now that our GTE leader has passed our GT3 leader. We believe that Torres is slightly behind pace. And according to our math, and if you watch GSRC, you know that taking our math, you have to do it with a grain of salt. He's going to wind up about 6.5 seconds behind.
Gonna need to pick things up a bit.
Well, as we've already seen, you just cannot predict what is going to happen in these Predator races. Mistakes can happen, miscommunication between classes without any of the blue flags to give you a warning when someone's coming. It's so easy to get tangled up and lose time. Those 6 seconds can come back in a hurry.
Now, I want to talk about a race for position that's going on between the GT1 of Mark Herzog and Johnny Slaviak. He's right there. Those two have got a nice little battle going. It's to under a second. GT1 trying to get here past the GT3. Can he pull this off, Joe? What do you think?
He's going to have to find something special. Again, only 30 seconds different on the handicap time, so their lap times are very, very close. And he's now going to have to deal with Gabriel Roos, the top of our DPs, who wants to find his way through. And there's the superior straight line speed of that GT1 Aston Martin, overtaking Johnny Slaviak.
Boy, that Aston's got some grunt, man, down the straight. Handled that kink real nice, too.
Some grunt and some lungs. I don't know if we could get an onboard to hear the scream of this car. That V12 is something to behold, even in iRacing.
Yeah, imagine that for 24 hours riding in that thing.
I wasn't on that team, Sean.
Yeah, we missed out on that one, buddy.
Meanwhile, these guys are actually approaching Brandon Limecooler, and we've seen the troubles that Brandon has had. We know that he's got a damaged car now after the contact. Oh, having trouble through turn 5 as well. He's going to pull over and let our DP leader through, put a lap on him. Now, is he going to let Herzog by, though?
I don't even want to make a comment, Joe.
Herzog is catching him. This isn't normal either, as Herzog is in the slower class, so he shouldn't be running down Limecooler, but that damage apparently doing enough to unsettle that DP.
Boy, and Ruse had a close moment there getting around Wayne Hutchinson. Let's look at that real quick, because that I caught it out of the corner of my eye. It did not look like fun.
Yeah, it looked like a little bit of a miscommunication. Hutchison was trying to take the normal racing line, and that involves drifting across the track.
Yeah. I mean, he got right up there to the edge of the track. I mean, almost got a couple tires off.
Yeah, the Swede, thankfully, managed to get through without any sort of contact. We're going to watch it from above here. There's the bobble, and shoop. Off to enjoy some meatballs post-race without any damage at this point.
Well, one of the good things about the prototype actually is that it is a right-hand drive car, and you kind of really do get a better feel for where the right side is, obviously, when you're sitting on that side of the car.
Well, we saw a puff of smoke down into turn 1, and I'm trying to figure out who caused that. Looks like that was actually Lionel Duprat locking him up and going wide into that first corner. Not worth going back and looking at. Duprat currently sitting 10th overall. One of the slowest, or one of the lowest down GTEs at this moment in the Ferrari. No real battles for position at the moment. Everybody has got at least 3 seconds between one another. Brandon Gracia still the leader overall by about 11.5 seconds over Brian Bennett, who has had a number of problems, has accrued some damage, but is still holding off John King by at least 10 seconds, so he's looking safe in that second position for now. The highest of our GTEs is Mark Torres. It's been that way since the drop of the green. He's leading a whole 14 seconds over Wade Hayes. Highest of our GT1s is going to be very easy to call all day long. There's only one of them, Mark Herzog, out there in the Aston Martin. Gabriel Ruse, of course, leading the DPs at the moment. Still 2 laps down from our leader. Something we haven't touched on, Sean, is the pit stops that we expect at least one this race.
Yeah, Joe, at least we're going to need at least one to get this done. Right now, I'm looking for that window of where they're going to come in, to be honest with you. I actually just picked back up on Mark Herzog because he's actually he's picking up Lionel Duprat, who's had his problems today. But Herzog looking to take another position away, get himself up into the top 10. And as we talk about that, we start talking about the pit stops. Honestly, I think that window is going to open probably sometime here. I still think we've probably got about another 8 to 9 laps to run out here before we hit that for most of the classes.
Certainly. I believe the shortest of the cars that can run the shortest stint is the DP, roughly 50 minutes, I believe. So we watch Lionel Duprat, and then now Gabriel Ruse there trying to run him down. We have a car off in Dunlop once again. That is taking a shot.
Yep. He recovered. It's all good.
Back on. Puma machine out there, able to keep going. Sometimes that's all that you need in these endurance races. "28 laps to go here at the Nürburgring, racing on the GP course. Can only imagine what this would be like if they ran the Nordschleife with these machines, trying to overtake one another and make time back. Up at the front of the GTEs, Jimbo Pfeiffer starting to reel in the number 83 of Wade Hayes. He's down to 1.5 seconds between the two of them.
Yeah, and just checking Jimbo's average here, really these last 5 laps have been really good. It's been a slow progression, but one he is definitely starting to win here, because Wade is on the whole has been just over a second slower.
Right on board with Pfeiffer and his classic Gulf livery scheme. Runs because of his dad's love for that paint scheme. Trying to chase down Wade Hayes. For the first time, as far as I can remember, Wade Hayes running in the Predator races. He's doing fairly well, being second within his class. The real test will come at the end to see where he finishes overall. Gap now down to 0.5 seconds between Pfeiffer and Hayes. Very much reeling him in. Breaking for this first hairpin. Bit of a lockup from Hayes. Maybe starting to feel the pressure from Jimbo.
Boy, Jimbo's been relentless right here, Joe.
Definitely starting to get into the head of Wayne as he closes up behind him. Cars taking slightly different lines through the arena section. Now they come back out onto the main course down into 6. Staying steady at about half a second gap between the two Ferraris. Closes in even more with a great exit off of the forward curve, but not close enough down to the Dunlop chicane. Maybe could set himself up for a good exit out of here. Don't want to go too wide through the Schumacher S, but that might be exactly what happens as he does get a run. Sticks his nose in around the outside. Tries to get up alongside him, successfully does it, but he's going to be on the outside, down into 11. What can he do on the brakes? And Wade Hayes decides to back out of it. Give a position to Jimbo Pfeiffer, second in class now. Go ahead.
So our fans a little concerned about the little train Lionel Callisto. He sits 9th overall right now and just mixing it up with Brian Bennett. Now, although that wasn't a battle for position, Lionel's still trying to get that lap back. So to get here on the lead lap with the lead of the field. So Lionel hanging in there, not having his best day, but he's definitely hanging in there right now.
As we get closer to the finish, our calculations start to get a little bit more clear. And our GTE leader, Mark Torres, is looking much better. Maybe now that he's gotten some clear track, he can rifle off those faster laps. He's looking at potentially being 1 second behind the leader at the end. That is incredibly close. All it needs is an off track for our overall leader to swing that around.
Or dare I say a mistake in the pit stop. On your entry or on your exit. So you don't want to get a penalty down there. That could be an ender. But Torres obviously listening to me on the broadcast before I said, listen, you got to pick it up, got to be faster. And he's done that. Let's see if it pays off.
And look at that. Gabriel Roos gets another lap back. He's now 1 lap down as he overtakes Guaracia, coming through the turns 6 and 7.
Getting by Trevor Clement now.
Guaracia still has a 10-second lead over Brian Bennett. I'm amazed with the contact that Bennett has had that his car is doing as well as it is.
I'll share a secret with you, Joe. Bennett's actually been faster than Guaracia. So he's managing that damage, managing it well.
I think we've had one more scheduled pit stop already take place. Johnny Slabiak has been in and out in the GTEs. He was well down the order in that class. Also starting to get a picture of our DPs where they sit. We think that they will be 11 seconds behind our leader at the end of the race. So DPs also needing to maybe pick things up there as you see the Blackadder driver of Roos. Blackadder, another one of those teams that seems to continue to grow and expand. Every time I turn around, I see that paint scheme on yet another car.
They are growing that organization. I'm thinking about joining them.
Oh, you're gonna abandon turn 2 on us here?
No, I would never do that. I'm not good enough to be down there.
Interestingly, about growing that organization, we have the team manager in this race. John King himself manages Blackadder Motorsports.
John out here still in a podium spot. John lives in Malaysia. I think we've talked about that before. He's in the Asia Club.
Yeah, we mentioned that last round. Moved there a number of years ago. was actually, I believe he was first based in the UK, if I'm remembering correctly. His job required him to move out there. It actually was interesting for John because he hadn't had much success in his karting career when he was at home. And then when he moved to Malaysia, he suddenly found himself kicking all kinds of butt. And certainly enjoyed a number of mid-tier successes in his career.
He's a Liverpool guy. Born in Liverpool.
Had to have been quite an adjustment going from the UK out to the heat of the Pacific and the humidity out there. Anybody who has ever watched the Malaysian Grand Prix of F1 knows what I'm talking about.
Oh wow, Johnny Slabiak had trouble right in front of Lionel Kalisto. We were talking about just a little bit ago there. That all happened right behind our leader, our race leader.
Going to see the replay. I'm not sure if this was a problem or if he intentionally pulled over to let him through. The Slabiak there is that teal Ferrari. And then you're going to see him pull off to the right.
Yeah.
That didn't look like he lost control of the car, just was trying to get out of the way, maybe.
Well, Kalisto just got by Brandon Garcia. He's cleared that. So now Kalisto won. They still got to get around another full lap to even think about getting back on the lead lap. Oh, and he's sliding, Yeah, I'm just not talking about drivers. I'm collecting them. I'm collecting them like the Grim Reaper out here, man.
An unusual day for Kalisto for sure, as he does get the car back going once again, but he's 9th overall and he's the 5th highest car of our GTEs. You can see that car was already starting to loop around by the time he came up to 11. So we come back live. Don't anticipate Kalisto being fighting for the win overall, unfortunately, today. In fact, we are exactly halfway now. And Slabiak outbraking himself down into turn 1. We saw that huge puff of smoke trying to stay out of the car of Brandon Garcia, who is our overall leader, who we're going to watch on board. Closes up fast, just misses the apex, doesn't hit anything. Able to go on. However, that 007 might be making a few cars nervous with behavior like that.
Maybe just a bit, Joe. Maybe just a bit.
A good point by our director. Why in the world is the 007 not on an Aston Martin?
Yeah, that's really kind of not acceptable. You think he was thinking about that when he decided what, I don't know. Inquiring minds definitely want to know. I do.
Well, he's Scandinavian. I'm not sure. Maybe he doesn't really care about British sports cars as much.
Okay, so we're gonna have Scandinavian sports car talk.
Is there Scandinavian brands?
Is the Koenigsegg a Scandinavian?
Oh, that
car?
is Swedish, isn't it? Actually, yeah. Well, there you go. Well, Sean and I ruminate on various car brands that you can't find in iRacing. Herzog is starting to catch up to Lionel Duprat and the GTEs. That GT1 car, our lone Aston Martin, continuing to make steady progress, is not on the lead lap yet, though.
No, but he's getting close to taking another position. He's got Lionel Duprat up there in his sights.
Well, Duprat pulls into the pits, actually.
Okay.
This looks like scheduled stop territory to me, with us almost exactly halfway.
Yeah, sure, why not? If you've made it, then go ahead and go on in if you want.
Now, I don't think that's where the cones were, where he suddenly locked up the brakes. Did he speed in the pits potentially here? I wonder if he forgot to set his pit limiter on. And that's going to hurt Duprat if he got a speeding penalty. We'll check the pit time when he exits. Unfortunately, no real battles out on track at the moment, just following the progress of each of the classes, but it will absolutely heat up when we get towards the end of this race. Up in the lead still of our overall, Brandon Gracia has had it since the drop of the green. Number 67 was followed closely by a train of cars for a little while, but then once the incident between Sheldon Rosenbaum, him getting turned by Brian Bennett, that happened, he has been nowhere to be found. Brandon stretched it away to 10 seconds and didn't look back. Mark Torres still leading our GTEs. He's got about 13 seconds over the next car in his class, Jimbo Pfeiffer. He's 1 minute and 6 seconds behind Brandon Gracia at the moment. And running him down, Mark Herzog, the only GT1 car out there today, still a lap down, has not found Brandon yet. We got another car behind our lone GT1 who's coming in. That's Claude Belval.
Well, that's okay. The dominoes start to fall.
This is Belval's first stop, so this should be a scheduled one. Top of our DPs, still Gabriel Roos, still a lap down. And actually, he's been catching our GTEs already. I'm seeing, you can see the timing and scoring at the bottom of your screen. Lionel Callisto, who's actually in the pits already, is the next one on his list. I believe the ones that he's passing are the GTEs who have pitted, though. Because we know Duprat and Slabiak have both pitted. Those are the ones that Roos has overtaken. And now that he's going by Callisto, who's also in the pits, this looks like this will be handed back as soon as our DPs come on in.
Boy, Callisto in there for a really, really long stop, Joe.
This is getting to be very close. Oh, and Callisto's out of the car. He must have called it a day. He's come back in.
Still a very, very long stop.
He must be getting repairs made, and Duprat is back in. Now, if he sped on the entry approaching, he shouldn't have to come back in because he could serve his penalty right then and there. If he sped on the way out, which is possible if we're seeing that his pit limiter may not have been set. Some drivers might not be used to cars with a pit limiter, might not have bothered to give themselves a button to turn that on and off. Now, we don't know if that is the problem with Duprat, but just speculation of what could be causing this unusual behavior just ahead of him. Mark Herzog having to work the long way around the hairpin with Josh Wolf just ahead of him.
Yeah, Josh Wolf had just gotten by Mark. And, of course, Lionel Duprat just coming out of the pit there.
You want to talk? Go ahead.
I was going to say that it's just kind of funny how they all cycled in together right there at the same time.
You want to talk a series where it'd be scary to have Josh Wolf coming up behind you. He said that he doesn't like people trying to outbrake him. He doesn't believe people can outbrake him. He's very late on the binders typically. He can be rather aggressive. As we saw in the last Pack Majors race, he overtakes Brian Bennett one more time.
And leaves him with a windshield of dust.
The windshields do get grimy here on iRacing. They've mimicked that real-world aspect of racing. When are our DPs going to be coming in? If they last roughly 50 minutes, we're getting right up to that. They had a 6-second wait. The race starting on the hour. We're looking at right about when we hit this next hour when they should be coming back in.
Oh, and Joshua Wolf. Oh, we missed it. Joshua Wolf there in Coca-Cola. His car went off into the dirt.
So his driver error, we're going to see on the replay as he works his way through Feedall. Hits that one nice and tidy. And then comes that final right-hander. And the rear of the car doesn't want to grip. He overcorrects, and around she goes.
Doesn't hit anything, and everybody gets through. But, man, that was a close one for him.
He lost some positions from that, did he not? Or no, he did not. He's still in second. I'm seeing that Josh has taken his pit stop. Is this correct on my timing and scoring?
It is, yes.
So it looks like we have had some DPs then that have come in. Claude Belval among them.
Yeah, remember he came in early. Came in like on lap 2, I think it was?
I think you're right.
But lap 4. I think it was lap 4 he came in. Lap 3 or 4 he came in, and we suspected it might have been the fuel. We know it wasn't a penalty. We confirmed that with race control.
Now, we're getting some more data in based on the pace that these cars are showing. Torres, the top of the GTEs, potentially 2 seconds ahead of the GT3s at the end of the race, but this is before the pit stops are being taken into account. None of our GTEs, well, I shouldn't say none, only 2 of our GTEs, and then none of our GT3s have come in for stops yet.
I'm sitting on a prediction, Joe.
Okay. Guessing this is Joel real timing?
It is. It is. Currently, it tells me Gabriel Ruse is the man.
Interesting.
We'll definitely confirm that when the checker flies.
So this is this Joel's foray into trying to make money on betting on these races?
No, I think I tried to explain to you last time. There's a very, very complicated formula that goes into this behind the scenes that uses all the data that iRacing is providing. So again, that involves math, computing, and all that, and we're not really supposed to do that. So I'm going to stay away from it.
I was going to say, is there any black magic, any spells involved in figuring that out?
There might be a chicken foot or two involved with that, yeah.
Dwayne Crowder getting out of the way of our lead DP, Gabriel Ruse, puts him a lap down. So we watch Brian Bennett on track, second place car in the GT3s. Not the cleanest race so far. Bennett from the Northwest Club. Been a regular in the Pack Majors for a number of years. Not surprised to see him come out here for the special Predator Challenge that they've started up. Josh Wolf is in a bit of an interesting situation as I just pop over to him.
Johnny Slaviak caught right in the middle of that. And then you've got the other DP there getting by Scott Corbin.
Josh is putting a lap on Scott, so that's not for position, even still 3 wide. Can always be a little bit sketchy, but they all navigated it fine.
Careful with the leader there.
Brandon Boasia, yeah, maybe getting a little bit nervous about Wolf there. Lets him through, down into 6. It's not just our leader who has caught and started to pass a couple of the GT3s. Mark Torres has overtaken Wayne Hutchison, but now Jimbo Pfeiffer, who was coming up to the back of him, but he's entering the pits this time. Bye. He's going to put him a little bit farther away from Hutchison. So Easy comes in to perform a scheduled stop. We have only 17 laps to go. Again, you're watching round 3 of the Predator Challenge here on the Global Sim Racing channel, taking place on the Nürburgring Grand Prix Strecke.
You know, and as we get close to the pit stops here for, well, all the classes that haven't pit yet, Brandon Garcia and Brian Bennett, you know, there was a moment there that Bennett was really starting to make up time, and you know what, the deeper they've gotten into this run, it hasn't really worked out for him. I don't know if it's the traffic or just struggling to continue to find speed. What's been wrong there for Bennett, but he still sits solidly in second. I mean, John King's really far back and going to need a lot of help to catch him. But right now, the top 3 in your GT3 class still have great pace, but Mark Torres is on still looking to get on that lead lap with him. And, or no, he is on the lap with him now, right, Joe? That's right, he is. And sits, what, almost 6 seconds back, I think.
Yeah, I'm seeing 46 seconds back. Speaking of getting onto the lead lap, Mark Herzog now coming up to our overall leader, looking to overtake this GT3 car any moment now. We'll get you a prediction on what Herzog can do, being that lone GT1 car. GT1's won the first round at Daytona. That was with Carter Kundinger. And there was the DPs that won round 2 at Mosport. The Sandman took that one home. He's not here today, unfortunately.
Heard he's at the beach. Sorry, I couldn't resist. It was horrible.
Amazingly, I don't think we've made that joke yet about George on there. So, and here you wasted it when he's not here.
Yeah. Maybe he's at Mid-Ohio today with the Trans Am series and the Xfinity series, hanging out at China Beach.
Could be. But he's a Northwest driver, so I think that might be a bit of a haul for him to get out to Ohio. But worth it. I highly encourage anybody who loves racing to take a trip to Mid-Ohio. Fantastic track. I've been there in person multiple times as Mark Herzog sets himself back down lap.
Oh boy.
Down a lap one more time with a spin coming out of the final chicane. And we were about to say that the GT1s were way behind. And now they're way, way behind.
Whole nother level away.
Dwayne Crowder comes in for his scheduled stop. He exits now for the DPs. Oh, and Mark Herzog got another spin. This time into the hairpin. We're going to pull up the replay one more time. Not representing the Aston Martins fairly well today. It gets a little bit too hot, and you can see as he tries to gather it back together around the apex, just turns it a little bit perpendicular. All right, DP leader is in. Gabriel Roos comes in for his lone stop. The 323 hits his marks. Josh Wolf has completed his stop, so as he works his way around the Bilstein curve, he's well behind as Roos is already out of the pits.
No, remember, Joe, actually, Josh is going to need another pit stop.
Oh, that's right. He started stopped right at the start. I believe Roos did not take tires.
Yeah, I don't think he did, Joe. That's only 16.4 in the box. That's just enough time for fuel.
I wouldn't think the DPs really need fresh tires in a 90-minute race, especially since they can't take them. Or wait, no, the DPs can take them at the same time as fuel. Now that I say that. Fairly certain that they are allowed to, since they're going by IMSA rules for these cars. The other machinery is not allowed to, however. GT3s, GT1, and GTE all must change tires and take fuel separately. Someone in the chat be willing to chip in on the DPs being able to change tires as they refuel, as I could be wrong on that. We'll defer to the peanut gallery. Wade Hayes in the GTE starting to catch up to the last of the GT3 cars in the main pack. Ernie Ludwig is still going, but he's well down the order. 2 laps down from our leader, Wayne Hutchison, about to be overtaken by the GTE car of Hayes, and down into the braking for the final chicane. He gets it done.
Okay, Joe, I can't confirm Roos did take tires.
Ah, there we go.
Went back and looked at his pit stop real quick. He did take tires.
Smokes him up a little bit down into turn 1, though. Doesn't want to abuse them too much there. Now, we've mentioned it a few times on air, Sean, but I'm actually kind of looking forward to the day that iRacing implements flat spots. It'll shake things up quite a bit.
It really will, and I'm with you on that. And I heard you say it before. I think that's a direction we need to get into because, let's face it, you lock up tires quite a bit on just about any vehicle, especially on these road circuits. And, well, having personally flat spotted a tire before, I can tell you that a vehicle with a flat spot on it is very, very difficult to drive. It's a bit of a bumpy trip.
I can only imagine. Right now, Gabriel Roos doesn't have to worry about that. The tires can overheat when they lock them up. Certainly raises the temperature, if only momentarily. Ryan Bennett comes on in now. Second place in the GT3s. John King is going to stream on by on that front stretch. So, as they work their way around with 13 laps to go, when is Guaracia going to come in? Are we going to see the GT3s play a little bit like they do with the Autobahn series, go a long race before they finally pit in? Traffic works a little bit different than some of the other series we see. If it hasn't been made obvious as you watch throughout today, Bennett is now going once again. He's been overtaken by Torres and Hayes in the GTEs, but those two cars both yet to pit. Jimbo Pfeiffer, I believe, the highest of the GTEs, who has pitted. He's sitting 8th overall. Of our cars that have retired, so far, relatively small amounts.
Yeah.
Kundinger is out, Kukas is out, Josh Gardner and Sheldon Rosenbaum have all retired. Josh Wolf comes in for his second stop.
Yeah, I knew that. I just had a feeling that was inevitable.
Must not have put enough fuel into the car at the start of the race in that number 48 machine. Slips him down to 14th overall. You can see there's our overall leader, Gracia. 28 seconds over John King, but John King and Gracia have yet to pit. About 1 minute and 5 over Brian Bennett. I wonder if we could get a close-up of Brandon's helmet here. I've caught flashes of it. Our director thinks it's from Rick and Morty, and I'm not entirely sure, actually.
I think it is. I think it's Mr. Meeseeks.
Ah, there we go. Oh, boy. Well, at least it's not a Lego. Going to be the new Lego one.
All right, someone's going to need
Ah.
to YouTube Rick and Morty and Mr. Meeseeks.
We've got some information, breaking news on what happened to Josh Wolf. He was speeding on the pits when he left, when he was released
Oh,
at the start of the race, and that is
Oh.
why he came back in. Mystery solved.
yeah. Wow, that is a big update indeed.
And something I'd never considered. I had just thought that everybody would have their pit limiter on at the start and be ready to go, but I guess not the case. Lesson learned for Josh Wolf. Ooh, really taking a lot of curb there through the Vidal chicane, though. Still waiting on pit stops for a number of cars, Sean.
You know, despite all that, Josh still had a really solid run today. You know, it's going to be disappointing because it's obviously going to cost him a chance to fight for a win. But again, still, what a run. Torres on screen here, up to P2.
Yet to pit, though. Same as Gracia, our overall leader, who's got about 30 seconds on Torres still. It's going to be incredibly close between these two when it gets to the end. 11 laps to go now. The picture will become clearer and clearer on who is going to wind up being able to win this thing, but we might not know until the final lap. That's the way the Predator works.
I said it in the pre-race, Joe. Somehow it always seems to work out. All the classes are represented up there in the top 5.
Looking through our order, the highest car who is pitted right now I'm seeing is Brian Bennett. He's sitting in 5th at the moment. Wade Hayes overtook him a little bit ago. We ride on board with our 5th place driver, Bennett, in his Mercedes, working his way through the Ford curve, now down towards Dunlop. Very interesting mix up at the top. Top 8 cars goes back and forth, GT3, GTE, and just keep that pattern back and forth, back and forth. And right as I say that, Jimbo Pfeiffer manages to overtake Wayne Hutchison. Changes the pattern.
Well, I think we've got a bunch of drivers out here looking to go for the splash. Joe, just checking back in on Mark Herzog. He still hasn't come in. He's coming around for lap 35 here.
I'm actually showing 2 pit stops on Mark Herzog. I'm pretty sure that's incorrect, though.
I wonder if it counts one if you were in the pit.
That could be. That's
if you
true.
started on the pit lane?
That's very true. Could be that it's our timing and scoring software isn't perfect, unfortunately, and sometimes
Yeah.
the number of pit stops can be slightly off, which is if you're wondering why we're guessing this. I see a 2:03 lap. Actually, a last lap for
Hutchinson's in.
And Herzog actually pitted last lap, I'm seeing. So, Herzog has come in. We just missed his pit stop. As you mentioned, Hutchison as well. Pitting from 8th place.
All right, I'm not going to dip into that realm and tell a little truth real quick. Pull back the curtain a little bit. I have been dealing with some technical gremlins here in the background, so not going to believe my timing and scoring anymore. We'll just go with what's on screen.
Absolutely. Hutchison exits out as well in 8th position, so doesn't lose his spot. Wayne actually used to do drag racing in the real life back in the 80s, and then in the 90s he moved on to karts instead. Quite a shift.
It is. You don't commonly see that, actually. Drag racers are pretty hardcore, and they love that straight line. They stay in that zone until a very late age, generally. And good stuff seeing him step out of that. All right, there's the leader. Was the leader.
In and out, that's going to hand over the lead to Mark Torres, but is yet to take his stop. And such was Brandon's lead that John King actually is coming into the pits right now. I was going to say he didn't overtake him. Looks like he may have if he had stayed out. But our second GT3 car is in. He should lose that position to Brian Bennett, who's coming around the final corner right now. There, the pits are being joined by Trevor Clement.
Boy, that was a great stop by Brandon. Joe, that was 10.6 seconds in the box, just enough fuel to get him to finish this race. Only 36.8 seconds in the pit lane. He slots out 16.8 seconds behind Mark Torres, who we said we know he needs to come in and take a pit. Pretty confident that will give him the lead back as long as he can just keep her in the gray.
Absolutely. Oh, pass for third potentially as Pfeiffer comes up on Bennett. Both cars have taken their stops. This is 4 overall position. Jimbo Pfeiffer coming off of the Ford curve is now up onto the podium.
Dwayne Crowder, who's still a few laps down, trying to stay out of this battle, but he's got to keep racing too.
Mark Torres is in for his pit stop. All right, our overall leader, after inheriting it from Brandon Gracia, who pitted just the lap previous, is going to be overtaken by the number 67.
Gracia just gets out of Coca-Cola, heading up the front straight.
Torres into his stall. Moves down to second. Where's Jimbo Pfeiffer? Pfeiffer wasn't really close before the pit stops, and he's not going to be close after the pit stops as Torres already exiting out.
Pfeiffer just getting out of Vidal.
And the final corner and on to the front stretch as Mark Torres hits the hairpin to exit the front stretch. So now that we've had both cars with a stop, the gap is, I'm seeing roughly 12 seconds, 13 seconds now, between Torres and Gracia with 8 laps to go. So I heard the number was about 3 point something seconds a lap for our GT3s to be caught by the GTEs. Is that going to be enough in
My
8
prediction
laps?
has changed.
Who is it now?
The prediction has changed. And that's the thing about the prediction. It can change. It moves based on the data. Okay? So right now, Mark Torres is lined up to be the winner of this race. Can he make it happen? Can he do this? That's exactly what I said.
Well, thankfully that Sean has a progressive bit of software that's able to change with the times. We'll keep an eye on that and let you know what Joel Real Timing is telling us could potentially create the result of this race. The only cars yet to pit, I believe, are none. I believe everybody has come in and out.
Yeah, we're done. Yep, everybody is. That's it. Let's race.
It's a straight shot to the line from here on out. Dwayne Crowder allowing Jimbo Pfeiffer to put a lap on him. Maybe. As Dwayne is well down the order, and that DP should be faster than the GTE, but doesn't want to race him, seeing that he is fighting for higher positions. Just lets him through. Very good sportsmanship there from Dwayne. Jimbo Pfeiffer loves the way he moves off his line.
Lionel Duprat clearing the way for Gabriel Ruse to get by. Ruse getting out of getting out of Coca-Cola, heading down across the straight now with 7 laps to go. Well, that's a minute and 12 seconds.
Sean, I'm starting to think your prediction software is looking more and more right, because that gap is now down to 8 seconds with 7 laps to go. So within 1 lap, that was roughly, was that 5 seconds then? Or no, it was less than that. It was 2 laps ago that we saw the 13-second mark. And that's still about 2.5 seconds a lap. That's plenty for him to run down Gracia.
Yeah. Yeah, well, he can get there. He's got to pass.
I have unfortunate news for you, though, Sean. Torres, hailing from New Jersey.
Yeah. I'm sorry.
Not going to touch that one, huh?
I don't want to talk too much about the guy. I think
he's going to win this race, apparently.
What if I told you the prediction changed again?
Has it actually?
It actually has. Yeah. I mean, are you curious to know?
I'd like to hear what the latest in AI is telling us.
Gabriel. It's back to Gabriel now. That the pendulum is swifted back to Gabriel, but I know, and that's what's got me confused. It's like, well, how can he pull this off?
Gabriel's got, for those who missed it, as our director pointed out behind the scenes, he's 73 seconds behind the leader. In 6 laps, I'm going to say that's a little bit too tall of an ask.
He's 65 seconds behind the leader now. But I don't know why it switched to Gabriel. That doesn't make any sense. I think Mark has really got the legs to get this done. The pace, it's hard to deny his pace right now.
I think he's going to be thereabouts, but I don't think he can get close enough unless we see a mistake from Mark Torres, who's now down to 4 seconds. We should probably hold on this for a little while, as he is closing at a rate of knots and should be up into the lead. We've already had 1 lead change, 2 lead changes, I should say, as Torres briefly took it during pit stops, handed it back to Gracia once he came in for his stop. How about Brandon, though? The race that he's been running.
Oh, he's been putting on a clinic. I mean, I talked when we got this race started how important it was to get just a great start, lay down some really, really hot laps. He did that. He's had that pace since the green flag dropped, and it's been a good trip around for him today. He's just got to do it for 5 more laps here.
As we watch Brandon Gracia, just in the background, those flashes you're catching, that black and green Ferrari, that is in fact Mark Torres within the same shot. Here we ride on board with the Blackadder Mercedes now. Canadian driver looking like he is going to lose this lead after a valiant effort. I believe next lap by should be a done deal unless we see a mistake from Brandon. We now ride on the dash of Torres. Through the Schumacher S's. Fast couple of sweepers. And down into turn 11. Closing ever more up to Bill Steen. This could be where we start to see it happen. It's a long run down to Vidal. GT3s do, thankfully, at least for Brandon, have pretty close pace in a straight line to these GTE cars, but it's under braking that we're going to see him really close in. And Mark Torres now is on the gearbox of Brandon Gracia. Out of the final corner. Looking to the inside. Brandon does not defend. Holds his line. A little bit of pace advantage there for the Ferrari. And then under braking for the hairpin. You can give P1 to Mark Torres, the number 23.
A lot of work involved with that. Did a great job of pulling that off. Consistency. Yeah, consistency and patience, Joe. Absolutely.
So is Roos still at the top of the predictions, Sean? He's now 56 seconds back on mine.
He is. I don't understand it, but he is. More importantly, though, I tell you what, there is a good battle between Bennett and King right now. They are this fourth position is not been decided here. Bennett's all over him.
This is between
King is all over him.
This is between two of our GT3 machines. King and the sister car to Guaracia up in the lead. Racing for Blackadder as he holds on to the back of Bennett. What can the Northwest driver do to keep the driver from Malaysia backing away? I wonder what time of night it is over there in Malaysia, actually.
I think it's actually about 5. It was about 5 a.m. in the morning. Whew. Yeah, and that would be 5 a.m. 5 a.m. Monday morning, I think, right?
Sunday morning.
Yeah, no, Sunday morning.
Don't think they're that far ahead of time.
Yeah, 12 hours. Yeah, it's. Our director always with a good comment. Yes, they are on the same planet. But yeah, they're right at about 12 hours. I think it's about 5:30 in the morning there Sunday.
But who is better on the brakes? Defensive move from Bennett down into Vidal, almost scraping Torres as he barely gives him room. Does he cut the second half of the chicane? He manages to keep John King back, but just barely. And now behind them, they've got Wade Hayes and Claude Belval who want to get through. 3 laps to go.
Well, this is a battle for position for Hayes. Hayes trying to get his GTE up in front of these guys.
King took a little bit of a look, but unfortunately gets pinched in as Belval takes away that inside line.
Wow, look how much John lost there. Brian.
Oh, and Bennett unfortunately dealing with Belval trying to slide his way through in turn 3. That cost him some time. But once again, Wade Hayes not able to easily get by the Mercedes of King despite having the faster class car. Got to run on him now, looking down to the inside, down into Dunlop. John King sticks it in, and they comes together. He shunts Bennett off the course. He manages to get back to the gray stuff.
Put a stick in his side, let him know you're there.
He put a log in his side the way that he ran into him.
Joe, don't look now, but look who's catching up to these guys.
And there goes Wade Hayes behind them. Coming up is Gabriel Roos. This is for position. And this is going to be a much easier deal for the DP with the speed advantage. Top end, down these straight, sneaks to the inside. The fight is on once again. King defends to the inside of Bennett. Holds him off. Reverse positions from what we saw before. This time, it's King holding the upper hand, staying in 6th.
Look at this C7 prototype. Giddy up, baby. Roos about to pass Wade Hayes.
That time across the line, it was 38 seconds behind our overall leader.
2 laps to go, Joe.
Is it still staying Roos?
It is. I don't know why.
Oh,
it's still
well, okay.
Something's got to miss.
Mark
disconnection.
Yeah, maybe. Mark Torres has about a 10-second gap over Brandon Croacia. Still holding down 2nd, but is he much longer? No, he's not, because Jimbo Pfeiffer now moves into 2nd in his GTE machine. Gracia has about 26 seconds over Roos. I think unless there's a mistake from Brandon, he should hold on to the podium. But in the top 4, we're seeing 3 of the 4 classes. Not bad. Mark Herzog, of course, throwing things a little bit off, being the only GT1 to take to the track today. He's sitting down in 10th at the moment. White flag is out now for Mark Torres. Nürburgring is a long ways from Jersey, but out in the Eifel Mountains, it's looking like this Ferrari might be able to take it home.
Another one of the very fast Blackadder Motorsports cars out here today. We talked about how smooth it's been for him. Mark played the long game, Joe, on the pit strategy. Only spent 9.1 seconds in the box there, getting some fuel, a splash to finish this off.
I tell you what, Mark Torres is not out of the water, because if he has a spin, loses you roughly 10 seconds usually, between 6 and 10 seconds. Jimbo Pfeiffer, 10 seconds back right now. A major mistake from Torres could still hand this over. He's got to be safe, and he's got to be clean. Works his way through the Schumacher S's. This will be an interesting notch in the stats in the very young Predator Challenge Series. First round went to GT1s. Second round went to the DPs. And with 2 more quarters to go for Mark Torres, as he comes up to brake for the Vidal chicane, are we going to add a notch for the GTEs? A tick in the box for the Ferraris? Torres comes around the final corner and he takes the win here at the Nürburgring in round 3 of the Predator Challenge.
Okay, let's go to a battle for position real quick. John King, Brian Bennett still slugging it out. Back there, tell you what, King just got the advantage as they try to wrap this race up, man. King has the edge right now, but Bennett has been all over him. Had a little bit of a slide, it cost him some time. Gonna get one last chance here down the straight to try and reel him in.
How is Bennett going to feel about that move by King down into Dunlop? We'll have to see if they can come in to chat about it after the race. I'm not seeing anything happening here. He's not nearly close enough. So John King's going to take that 6th place away. Pfeiffer did come home with 2nd, and Gracia managed to stay on the podium as well. With that, we are going to go to a quick break here on the Global Sim Racing channel. We'll be back with the unofficial results as well as driver interviews. Stick around. Welcome back to Nürburgring. We just watched round 3 of the Predator Challenge here at this track in the Eifel Mountains. And, well, in the end, it was Mark Torres, third winner in 3 races, who came away with the win. Jimbo Pfeiffer finished in second, also in a GTE car, both of them in Ferraris. That's all that showed up today. No Ford GTs, sadly. But Brandon Guaracia and the GT3s represented well, and his Mercedes, and managed to get on the podium. Third different class out of 4 cars. Gabriel Roots in the DP. The Corvette manages 4th today. Wade Hayes, back in the GTEs, comes out in the top 5 with John King. Also in the Mercedes, comes in 6th, managing to hold off Brian Bennett. Made a controversial pass down to the Dunlop hairpin. Bennett finishes 7th. Trevor Clement finishing in 8th. With the GTE cars. Wayne Hutchison's back in the GT3s, finishing 9th. And our lone GT1 first car lap down, Mark Herzog in the Aston Martin, finishes 10th.
All right. And in 11th, it's going to be Joshua Howland Wolf. Claude Belval finishes 12th today. Lionel Callisto there in 13th. Lionel Duprat, 14th. Johnny Slaviak, 15th. Scott Corbin, 16th. Ernie Ludwig, 17th. Dwayne Crowder, 18th. Brandon Limecore, 19th. Sheldon Rosenbaum, 20th. Joe, I'll take the last couple here. Joshua Gardner finished 21st. 22nd, going to go to Scott Kukas. Unfortunately, Carter Kundinger never even made it to the grid, fellas.
Unfortunate to see. We would have liked to see what Dinger could have done. But in the meantime, we're going to talk to Josh Wolf, who had a bit of a rough day. It was rough from the start for Josh, finished in 11th overall, and sounds like a speeding penalty right from the get-go put you on the back foot.
Yeah, stupid mistake on my part right at the beginning, and just fighting up from there.
And speaking of fighting up from there, I have to imagine that it changes your mental state, knowing that you're sort of climbing out of a hole from the very beginning. What did you do to try and buckle down and make the best of the rest of the race?
Didn't really do a whole lot, just mainly focused and hope everybody would get out of the way. There wasn't much else I was going to try and do at that point. Strategy kind of was going back and forth on whether I should take tires or not at the end, but I was just struggling with the setup, so I just decided it'd be better to take tires than not.
Now, the next round is going to be at Phillip Island. That track puts on some interesting racing, though multi-class can be a little tricky in places. Are you looking forward to that? Do you consider Phillip Island a strong one for you?
I honestly don't know if I've turned any laps there, so we'll see. I'll have to see how wide it is. I know this one, I don't mind Nürburgring, but it's not really one of my stronger tracks. I'm not a big fan of the boulders for curbs that they have here, and I just really was off pace. The only reason I was at the top was I was kind of practicing Q-trim to see where I was at in practice, and Gabriel definitely was a lot faster than I was.
Now, I will ask you, if you've never turned laps at Phillip Island, how do you feel about decreasing radius corners?
I actually don't mind them. I've some tracks that have had that I've actually enjoyed those corners, so we'll see.
Well, hope you don't mind them to the point of liking them, because you'll meet a lot of them at Phillip Island, Josh.
Okay.
All right, that's Josh Wolf, who finished in 11th here today at the Nürburgring round 3 of the Predator Challenge. Now, I see that we've got we've got Mark Torres, actually. Sean, you want to talk to our overall winner?
I do, especially since I predicted he would win halfway through the race. I did, and Joel Realtime did. Mark, congratulations. Got to be pretty excited about winning one of these things, huh?
Yeah, this was the first time I missed the first 2 rounds, but it was a really fun league, and obviously happy with the win.
Now, you know, sometime early this morning, someone told me people from New Jersey can't drive. I think you've dispelled that myth.
We know how to drive fast.
That's right. Martin Truex is from Jersey, right?
Yeah.
That's okay. So, yeah, and he's awful fast. Listen, Mark, talk about the challenge of this Predator format and how it ultimately worked out for you. What was the secret today?
I definitely had a little bit of good fortune on my side with traffic. Jimbo was definitely moving, but I think he had a spin or something a little bit earlier in the race. And it seems like I probably got a little bit fortunate with the handicap on the DPs because Gabriel was also flying, and he was about 30 seconds behind at the finish. So a little bit of fortune, but I really just went in with the focus of keeping it clean, which I was able to do. Didn't really get too tied up in traffic too much. And like I said, just ran a clean race.
And you were one of the drivers that played the what I call the long strategy. You just kept her out there until you really needed to come in. Took just enough to fuel there. You're only in the box for 9.1 seconds. Tires, were they ever a consideration today?
No. I mean, my front tires were absolutely destroyed. I definitely could have done a better job on balancing out my setup. But no, I mean, I knew with that little fuel, actually, I didn't realize this is my first time here. So I asked somebody up front and they just said, yeah, no, there's no reason to take tires. So even though they were barking, lap times kind of stayed somewhat consistent. So it wasn't too bad.
Well, Mark, congratulations. That certainly is a big win. A lot of Blackadder drivers here in the field. And what's the feeling right now that you're the best of the Blackadder drivers that showed up today?
That's a nice little feather in the cap. Talk a little bit of smack to my boys.
That's kind of where I was going with that. You get bragging rights. Good stuff, man. Good stuff. All right. Well, anybody you'd like to thank today?
My team, definitely my teammates. Blackadder Motorsports have been awesome in helping me develop over this last year. And our sponsors, obviously. And you guys, thanks for the broadcast.
All right. Well, thank you, Mark. We will see you next time. Joe, think maybe Brandon is going to join us, so let's bring him in, see if he's ready to talk to you. Brandon Garcia there from Canada finishes on the podium.
Absolutely. Unfortunately, I'm sure he would have liked to finish higher, having led most of the race. Brandon, it seemed like you weren't under pressure except for the first couple laps. Was it a smooth race from your perspective? We didn't really see much in the way of mistakes out of you.
Yeah, it was really smooth. Yeah, at the beginning it was intense. I pulled away a second and a half, and then Sheldon was right there. Started worrying me a bit.
Absolutely. He's been on great form lately and is a very consistent driver most of the time. Now, did you feel pretty confident that you could maybe take the win away from this? Or when you looked at the handicap times at the start of the race, did you feel like those would be easily overcome by the GTEs?
This is my first Predator race, so I had no idea what was going to happen. So I just went and drove as fast as I could the whole time.
So I'm curious what brought you into the Predator series. It certainly is a unique one in terms of iRacing leagues.
I've been watching them on YouTube before, and I've never been able to fit it into my schedule. And then John said, join up. And I said, okay, let's go.
Simple as that. Well, we're glad to have you out. We hope you return if your schedule allows it, and congratulations on a podium today.
Thank you very much.
That was Brandon Guaracia, third place here today in round 3. We're going to close up, of course, and before we do, I want to thank Mike Willett for organizing this series. And of course, thanks to the companies that provide the software and hardware for our broadcast listed here on your screen. Additional thanks to Eric Ekholm and Casey Lalonde, who provide our wonderful music. See the screen for how to get a hold of more of their great work. Thanks to the team today, Amjad, Sean, and Dougie. If you'd like to find out more about GSRC, including upcoming races, you can find it at globalsimracingchannel.com, or you can check out our social media on Twitter at GSR Channel or Facebook at /Global Sim Racing Channel. The next race, Phillip Island, going to Australia here for this series. This will be a first for the Predator races, I believe, going to that track. That'll be Saturday, August 26th at 3:45 p.m. Eastern, a couple weeks from now. We also have upcoming races for other series listed on the screen. Check those out. Mark them down on your calendar. We've got lots of great racing action in a variety of leagues here on our channel. However, until next time, race clean, race hard, and we'll see you on the track.